All right, so our next thing that we're going to go over is the 1.0b examples. So this is mostly solving quadratic equations. There are a couple of ways to solve quadratic equations. So the first way that we're going to talk about is by taking square roots. So if you have a quantity squared like this, we can get this by itself and then square root it. We have to divide by -10 to get it by itself first. So y minus 7 squared equals 36. And now I can square root both sides. So y minus 7 equals plus or minus 6. So keep in mind that this is plus or minus 6, not just 6, because I wasn't asking you what is the square root of 36. I was asking you what number, when squared, is y minus 7. So you need that plus or minus. Because 6 squared is y minus 7, and -6 squared is y minus 7. So that means y minus 7 is 6, or y minus 7 is -6. Plus 7, plus 7. And then you're just going to put those in separated by a comma. 13 and 1, 13 and 1. Or 1 and 13, but that doesn't matter. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing here. We have to isolate this term that's being squared first. So let's subtract the 6. Sounds right. Divided by the -8. Yes. Then I'm going to square root both sides. So 8x plus 5 equals plus or minus rad 48. The square root of 48 reduces. It's 16 and 5, so that's 4 rad 5. No, it's 16 and 3, so that's 4 rad 3. So I have 8x plus 5 equals 4 rad 3, or 8x plus 5 equals -4 rad 3. Subtract the 5. Divided by the 8. So x equals -5 plus 4 rad 3 divided by 8. Subtract the 5. By the 8. Okay, so you're going to put these two with a comma in between them over here, and more has the fraction creator, so you're going to put them in exactly like they look here. And then for your approximations, you're going to put these in the calculator. So -5 plus 4 rad 3 divided by 8, and -5 minus 4 rad 3 divided by 8. So this is 0.2410 and -1.491. So these are your exact answers. You put them here with a comma in between them, the same way that I did 13 and 1. And then these are your rounded answers. So you're going to put those in here with a comma in between them. Okay. The order that you put them in shouldn't matter, as long as they're both there. All right. So this is going to be the only time that I review how to factor with you, because in my opinion, coming into this class, there there's like only one thing that you absolutely need to know how to do, and that's going to be factoring. So remember, when we factor, we have to have this equal to 0. And then when there's no number in front of the x, we're going to say what two numbers multiply to 56 and add to 15. That's going to be 8 and 7. So this would be x plus 8, x plus 7. Then you split it. Now, if you have a number in front of the x, then you're going to have to factor by grouping. So we're still going to get everything to one side. Now, to factor by grouping, we multiply a times c. So 16 times 27. And we get a number, negative 432. It was negative 27. Right, because I took this and moved the 66 and the 27 over. You always want to keep your a term positive, whether you're using the quadratic formula or factoring, because everything goes wonky if your a is negative. You get the same answers, but it's harder. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a factor chart here, and then I'm going to look for a pair of numbers that multiplies to 432 and adds to 66. So what are the factors of 432? 1 and 432, and those can't make 66. 432 divided by 2, 2 and 2, 16, 3 and 144. And what I'm doing is these two numbers next to each other multiply to 432, and I'm trying to figure out if I can make any of them add to 66. I know 5 doesn't go in, so I skipped it. Okay. So if I'm looking at 6 and 72, this was a negative 432. So negative 6 plus 72 would be 66. And negative 6 times 72 would be negative 432. So those are the numbers I'm going to pick. Once you pick your two numbers, you split your middle term so that instead of this, it is the two numbers that you picked. And now we group. Look at the first two terms. What do a 16x squared and a 6x have in common? They have a 2x. So if I GCF out a 2x, I'm left with 8x minus 3. Look at the second two terms. What do a 72x and a 27 have in common? That's going to be a 9. And if I take that out, I'm left with 8x minus 3. And now what do these two terms have in common? Well, they both have an 8x minus 3. So I'm going to take that out, and that would leave me with this 2x and this plus 9. So then either 8x plus 3 equals 0, or 2x plus 8x minus 3, equals 0, or 2x plus 9 equals 0. So 8x equals 3, x equals 3/8. 2x equals negative 9, x equals negative 9/2. So then 3/8, negative 9/2, 0.375, and negative 4.5. So these are your exact values that you're going to put in the first box. These are your rounded values that you're going to put in the second box. Factoring. If you do not know how to factor, then I absolutely 100% need you to review that this week. Need you to. Like, not optional. You have to remember how to factor. Okay. 2t squared plus t plus 9. When I move the t over, 2 times 9 is 18. Are there two numbers that multiply to 18 and add to 1? No, there are not. So in this case, we have to use the quadratic formula. So remember that the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. The quadratic formula is also prerequisite knowledge for this class. So I lied to you before when I said there was one thing. There are two things. You need to know how to factor and you need to know how to use the quadratic formula. Okay, so remember A, B, C, and x equals -1 plus or minus the square root of 1 squared minus 4 times 2 times 9 over 2 times 2. So x equals -1 plus or minus the square root of 1, 8 times, so minus 72 over 4. X equals -1 plus or minus the square root of -71 over 4. And remember, we can't leave that negative under a radical, so it would be -1 plus or minus I rad 71 over 4. And now, when you put it in here, they have to be separated by a comma. So you would do -1 plus I rad 71 over 4, -1 minus I rad 71 over 4, like that. Okay? And then we're still going to use the calculator for an approximation. So -1 plus your I is down here. It's second and then your decimal point. So I rad 71 divided by 4 minus I rad 71 divided by 4. So -0.25 plus 2.1065I, -0.25 minus 2.1065I. So those are your approximations that you're going to put in the second one. All right, so some combining to do here before we can actually worry about, can I factor this or am I going to use the quadratic formula? Again, I always like to keep my A term positive, so I'm going to move these 3 terms over to this side. That way my A term stays positive, because 7x squared minus 5x squared is 2x squared. -4x plus 5x, when I move it over there, will be plus 1x. And then when we add this 9, it'll be minus 9. This looks suspiciously like our last one, only with one sign different. Let's see how that affects my answer. So this is x equals -1 plus or minus the square root of 1 squared minus 4 times 2 times -9 over 2 times 2. -1 plus or minus the square root of 1 plus 72 this time. Okay. No I this time. So that's going to be -1 plus the square root of 73 over 4 and minus the square root of 73 over 4. 40 squared. So -1 plus the square root of 73 divided by 4. This is just second enter, by the way. Second enter pulls up the last thing. Ooh, I forgot the divided by. Second enter pulls up the last thing that you put in. So second enter, and I change this to a negative or a minus. So 1.8860 -2.3860. Okay, and then one more. So again, I'm going to try to keep my A term positive. So I'm going to move everything over to this side. So negative 0.49 plus 2.06 is 1.57. Negative 995 plus 616. Negative 379. And then 7.09 minus 8.07. Negative 0.98. All right, this one's going to be annoying. ABC, x equals a negative 3.79, so that's going to be a positive 3.79, plus or minus the square root of negative 0.379 squared, 4 times 1.57 times negative 0.98. I'm going to put this whole thing in my calculator once. So it is negative 3.79 squared minus 4 times 1.57 is negative 0.98. See how that's my whole radicand? 20.5185. 2 times 1.57. I think, oh no, they don't even want the exact. So they just want rounded. So let's figure out my rounded for this. So we need parentheses, not that many parentheses. 3.79 plus the square root of, oh, I forgot my 0 right here. Let's fix it. 20.5185 divided by 3.14. And then we want the same thing, but with subtraction in between. So that was second enter again. So my two values here are 2.6496 and negative 0.2356.